I never thought I'd be the type of person to call the police on a neighbor. But then again, I never thought I'd live next door to Corinne Wilkins, the self-appointed ruler of Oakwood Estates and president of our HOA. For the record, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I follow the rules, I mow my lawn, pay my dues, and I even show up for the monthly HOA meetings, even though they're only slightly more exciting than watching paint dry. But Corinne had a supernatural talent for twisting the simplest neighborhood rules into personal crusades. Her obsession with me started the day I adopted Bentley, the sweetest, calmest golden retriever on the planet. The HOA's pet rules were crystal clear. Dogs under 70 pounds were allowed. Bentley was 65. My yard was fenced. He was always leashed on walks, and I cleaned up after him every single time. But from the moment she saw us strolling through the neighborhood, I could feel her glare burning through her spotless white curtains. "Excuse me," she called out one morning as Bentley and I got back from our walk. She was standing at the edge of her property, arms snapped across her floral blouse, her graying blonde hair pulled back so tight it looked like it was holding her entire face in place. "Your dog looks rather large. Are you aware of the HOA's weight restrictions?" I forced a polite smile, the kind you use when you're trying really hard not to roll your eyes. "Yes, I'm aware. Bentley weighs 65 pounds. I actually confirmed it with the board before I adopted him." Her lips thinned into a straight line. "Well, he looks heavier. I may need to see documentation. I can bring his vet records to the next meeting," I replied evenly. All the while, Bentley sat calmly at my side, blissfully unaware he was at the center of this complete nonsense. From that day on, Corinne made it her personal mission to find something, anything, wrong with how I owned a dog. She complained about barking, even though Bentley barely made a peep. She filed an official complaint about dog hair supposedly blowing into her yard. Dog hair. She even insisted his beautiful golden fur was lowering property values. Things really escalated when I installed a small dog house in my backyard. I followed every single rule. I checked the bylaws, filed the paperwork, got full approval, and even matched the exact shade of beige required by the HOA. But the minute I finished setting it up, Corinne appeared at my fence line, holding a binder thick enough to contain every HOA rule ever written and probably her own personal edits. "That structure was not approved," she announced, her voice sharp. "Actually, it was," I said, walking over to the fence. "3 board members voted to approve it. I can show you the email." "I am the board," she snapped, her face turning a blotchy red. "And I don't recall approving this eyesore. The board has 5 members. I reminded her as calmly as I could. "You're the president, not the entire committee." Her eyes narrowed into dangerous slits. "I'll be bringing this up at the next meeting. This does not meet HOA standards." But the meeting came and went, and the doghouse remained officially approved. For a moment, I thought that would finally be the end of her crusade. I was very, very wrong. One Tuesday afternoon, I came home early from work because of a plumbing issue. As I pulled into my driveway, I froze. Someone was in my backyard. It was Corinne. She was wearing gardening gloves and leaning over my fence, holding a spray bottle. And she was spraying something directly onto Bentley's food bowl, which sat right beside his dog house. I got out of my car quietly and walked towards her. "What exactly do you think you're doing in my yard?" She spun around so fast she almost dropped the bottle. For a split second, she looked scared. But then, her usual expression of self-righteous fury returned. "Your dog has been barking all day," she said sharply. "I was simply leaving a note, in a spray bottle, on his food bowl." I stepped closer, and she clutched the bottle to her chest. "It's just water," she blurted out, too fast, too defensive. "Your patio is filthy." I was cleaning up. My heart started hammering in my chest as a sickening realization crept over me. First of all, Bentley has been at doggy daycare all day, so he hasn't barked once. Second, you either hand me that bottle, or I'm calling the police. Trespassing is already on the table, and I am very curious what you are planning to spray into my dog's bowl. Karen's face twisted with rage. This is ridiculous. I'm the HOA president. I have every right to inspect properties for violations. No, I said firmly, pulling out my phone. You absolutely do not. HOA rules require a 24-hour written notice before any inspection, and even then, you're not allowed to spray unknown chemicals on someone's property. I started dialing. I had put up with her harassment for months, but this was a line that could never be uncrossed. She wasn't just a nosy neighbor anymore. She was a threat to my dog's life, and I was going to make sure she faced the consequences. Thanks for watching. If you've ever had a crazy neighbor story, share it in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. I raised my phone slightly, a silent warning that I was seconds away from calling the police. Something in Karen's expression shattered. She hurled the bottle at my feet and stormed toward the gate. Fine. Deal with your own violations, she snapped. That mutt is a nuisance, and I'm filing another complaint. As soon as she disappeared, I picked up the bottle. It was labeled as a basic household cleaner, but the smell was sharp and chemical, nothing like a standard cleaner. A knot formed in my stomach. I dumped out Bentley's food and water bowls immediately and called the police and animal control. Then I documented everything: the bottle, the damp food bowl, even the footprints she left in my garden bed. When the police arrived, they didn't brush it off. The responding officer, a calm, sharp-eyed woman, listened to everything and collected the spray bottle as evidence. We'll get this tested, she assured me. Do you have security cameras? Thankfully, I did. I'd installed them after the doghouse argument, mainly as a precaution, and those cameras caught everything: Karen climbing into my yard, checking to make sure no one was watching, then spraying whatever was in that bottle directly into Bentley's bowl. The next several days were a blur. The test results came back. The bottle contained a mixture of antifreeze and weed killer, both extremely toxic to animals. That was enough for the police. Karen was arrested: trespassing, attempted animal cruelty, property damage. I watched from my driveway as officers escorted her down her pristine steps. Her face twisted in disbelief, then outrage. This is a misunderstanding, she cried. I was protecting our neighborhood standards. I'm the HOA president. Apparently, being HOA president doesn't put you above the law. At her arraignment, she was released on bail and ordered to stay far away from me and my property. The judge, who mentioned being a dog owner himself, looked thoroughly unimpressed with her defense that she was just discouraging the dog from staying outside because the doghouse violated aesthetic rules. The emergency HOA meeting that followed was one for the history books. Residents packed the community center, many of whom I'd barely exchanged greetings with before. The outrage against Karen was unanimous. The remaining board members, clearly eager to distance themselves from the disaster, voted to remove her as president on the spot. They also issued me a formal apology and rolled back several of the nitpicky rules she had pushed through over the years. Karen didn't attend the meeting, but the fallout reached her anyway. I later learned that she worked as a real estate agent, a job built entirely on trust and reputation. Her arrest had already hit the local news, complete with her mugshot. Clients were cutting ties left and right. The final blow came when her attorney contacted mine. To avoid further civil charges, Karen agreed to a settlement. She would cover Bentley's vet tests, reimburse all my legal fees, and pay damages. The total, just over $115,000. I only saw Karen once more before everything was finalized. She was leaving her attorney's office as I arrived. The once perfectly polished HOA president looked drained, hair messy, clothes plain, confidence gone. When her eyes met mine, she froze, her face flushing with a mix of shame and resentment. I hope it was worth it, I said quietly as I walked past her. All this over a doghouse. She opened her mouth like she wanted to launch one of her signature tirades, but nothing came out. Instead, her shoulders slumped and tears filled her eyes. My whole life, she whispered, her voice cracking. Everything I built, gone, over a stupid dog. The tears finally spilled over as her attorney gently guided her away. For a moment, watching her crumble, I didn't feel victorious, just hollow. There were no winners here, only a brutal lesson in what happens when someone lets petty power consume them. And as she disappeared down the hallway, shoulders trembling, I couldn't help but think, the doghouse she tried so hard to destroy was ultimately the thing that destroyed her. Thanks so much for listening to my story. If you've ever had a crazy HOA encounter, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.